Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, Mariah's Moods. Today I want to talk to you about all the books that I read in the month of March. Let me first start off by saying March came for me. It came swinging and I was not smart enough to duck. So I took quite a few punches in March. March was quite the roller coaster. The first part of the month was awful, but it ended on such a high note that it was okay. Like, the roller coaster ride was quite the ride with its ups and downs, but at least at the end I had some fun. So with that being said, I did not read as much as I would have liked, and I was in such a reading slump that all the books that I did read, overall, I just wouldn't say that I was happy with my reading month in March. Literally everything that I was picking up towards the beginning of the month, I just could not connect with. I couldn't get into. I just was not having a good time. But luckily towards the end of the month, things got better. We went on vacation and reading kind of went up along with that. So I'm going to talk about the books that I did finish in the month of March, and I figured I would just start off chronologically what I read. Okay, my camera died, but I am back. So I read a total of 7 books in the month of March. So I figure I'll just go in order of the books I read throughout the month. So I started off March just like not mentally in a good space. So everything I was picking up was just, I couldn't connect to. I was just DNFing like left and right. Definitely books that I will come back to. I just don't think I was in the right mindset. So I was like, let me just pick up some trash and kind of hopefully get me into a reading mood. So I decided to finish off the Mindfuck series. So I read the last 2 books of the Mindfuck series. I really enjoyed it. I think overall I would give the series a 4 out of 5. I've talked about this book or this series before on my channel, but in case you missed it, the Mindfuck series is following Lana. Lana is a serial killer. Homegirl has gone through some trauma, and she is out to get revenge, and she is doing it. I'm here for it. I love it. It was dirty. It was ugly. It was nasty, but I loved it. I loved it. But it also follows Logan. Logan is a detective who is in charge of solving Lana's case, figuring out who is the serial killer, who is it, why are they doing this, and how can they be stopped. And so the 2 of them end up striking up a romance. And just, when I tell you that this is trash, it was trash, but in the best way. I loved the banter between them. I loved their dynamics. I loved the cat and mouse. Like, I love the series. It's by S.T. Abbey. And I cannot recommend enough. So after that, I picked up The Husband's Secret by Freda McFadden. This is the 2nd book in this series. I don't even know if it's going to continue from this point, and I'll be honest and say I could care less. I really enjoyed the first book. I read the first one back in like December or January, and I enjoyed it. It was entertaining, not like the best writing, but again, it was entertaining, and I was excited to see where it goes because the first book ends on a cliffhanger. It is following Millie. Millie is an ex-con who is just trying to get by. She, in the first book, picks up a maid/nannying job, and the wife that hires her ends up being crazy. But things happen, questions are answered, and it was highly entertaining, absolutely ridiculous, but it does end on a cliffhanger, and I was very excited to be picking up The Housemaid's Secret to see where that cliffhanger goes. Unfortunately, in the 2nd book, it's just kind of glossed over, and this next story begins. I could have cared less. Millie lost all of her personality in the 2nd book, and then family she was working for, the direction that the story went was ridiculous, but not in an entertaining way. Like, it was almost too over the top. I felt like McFadden was trying to give us Gone Girl vibes, not the plot of Gone Girl, but just the vibe of the type of woman in Gone Girl. I feel like she was trying to serve that to us, but she completely missed the mark. I ended up giving this 2 stars. However, it's not that I don't want to recommend it. I feel like there are people that will enjoy this book or maybe have enjoyed the second book. It just wasn't for me, and it just went in a direction that I just didn't care for, and I couldn't wait for it to be over. After that, my reading slump just got much, much worse. Luckily, to save the day was my in-person book club. So if you've been following my channel, you know that my in-person book club has been slowly working our way through the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. And so in between every couple of books, we've just been picking up a random book. And so one night we were just trying to decide, before we started tandem reading the 5th and 6th book, what would we want to pick up in between. And so we decided on a whim, just to be funny, to pick up Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. When I tell you, this was so fun to read. I can't even believe that I'm saying this. So let me just kind of give you a little bit of background. Twilight came out when I was in high school, and it just hit every girl by storm. I was not obsessed with these books like every other girl that I knew in high school moving forward. I really enjoyed the movies. I've seen every movie. I thought they were very entertaining. I loved the vibes and the soundtracks. Loved it.
I had to watch all those movies.
But the books were not for me. I read the first one. It was my first introduction to really vampire and romance. And it was just like, it was okay. It was okay. So there was a few girls in my book club that have never even read the books. They'd seen the movies, but never experienced Stephenie Meyer. So we thought it would be fun, and boy, was this fun. Reading this as an adult versus a teenager, you just pick up on things that obviously when you're 16, 17, you're not picking up on. I started reading this book and like highly tabbing it just to have conversations. And then it just eventually got to a point where I was just like, I just need to finish this thing. So I kind of stopped tabbing. But if you look at my tabs, this is the first 100 pages of the book, and all of the red tabs are the red flags for Edward Cullen. Like immediately, the first introduction of Edward is a red flag. And Bella just did not pick up on it. But I think, you know, obviously she was 16, 17 in the book. This is for a 16, 17 audience. So you're not going to see those same red flags of the shitbag that is Edward Cullen. I could go on about this book forever and all of my issues with it and all of the entertainment and just like drag it through the mud. So if you would like to see me rant about Twilight, please let me know in the comments, because I'm more than happy to say it. But please don't get me wrong, I enjoyed reading this, but it was so fun to read it from a different perspective. If you have read Twilight, or maybe you haven't read it since you were maybe younger in like the first releases or in a couple of years, please read it again, because you will see it from a different lens, and it just makes it that much more entertaining. I think overall I gave this book a 3 out of 5, but if I were to talk about my experience with reading this book this time, it would have been a 4. After that, I picked up River Demon, River Woman by Jennifer Gavon. I listened to this on audio. I picked it up randomly on a whim from my library, and I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. So this follows Eva. Eva is a witch, a bruja, and her husband practices hoodoo. She is a glass blower who makes sculptures kind of rooted around her magic, and he is also a professor that has this like magical shop. Eva has a complicated past. When she was a young girl, her best friend drowned while they were swimming in a pond. She kind of blacked out, doesn't have much memory of that night, but just knows that it still kind of haunts her to this day. Fortunately, one night, one of their best friends ends up drowning in the river behind their personal ranch. Her husband is arrested on the suspicion of this woman's murder. Eva, again, has blacked out, really doesn't have any memory of the night, how she got to their property, how this drowning has even happened, and if her husband is guilty or not. Her world is kind of turned upside down, and it goes from there. Again, the premise of this was really great. The magic was very, very interesting. The explanations and the use of that magic seemed very real. This did not seem like a fantasy book in any means. So that was very, very interesting. My problem was Eva. I know that she was not supposed to be like the best likable character, and she was definitely unreliable, and I like unreliable narrators. However, the decisions that she makes and where the story goes just kind of fell short for me, and the plot twist and the big reveal at the end really was not that surprising. I called it very, very early, and when I'm reading a thriller, I like to be surprised by the plot twist, and I just wasn't. So I don't want to say too much. Even though I'm giving it, like I said, I want to give it 3 out of 5 stars because I feel like it was a solid book. It was a solid story. I just don't think it was the strongest thriller. But I still would recommend it. I do think that there are people out there that would definitely enjoy this book. I just wish I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. After that, we decided to take our trip to Hawaii. So if you haven't watched, I have a spring break vlog up on my channel where my family and I literally took an impromptu trip to Hawaii. So not much reading was done, but I did get a little bit done on the trip and when we got back. So I decided to try my hand in a little bit of manga, and I picked up Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo. So Spy Family is like I said, my first introduction to manga. I've never read manga before, but I've heard such good things, and the stories and the plots of some of the manga that I've heard sound very interesting, and I've been thinking about reading Spy Family for probably a year now, and so I just decided to give it a chance. Spy Family is following a spy named Twilight, and he is tasked with getting some important information from this bad guy, essentially. This villain basically frequents a lot of events at this local private school. In order for Twilight to infiltrate and get this information, he has to get access to these high-profile school events. So what does he do? He decides to basically form a fake family. He starts by adopting a little girl and then eventually finding a wife. What he does not know is that the woman that he has now made his wife is an assassin, and the child is a telepath. So he doesn't know that his wife is an assassin. She does not know that he is a spy, but the child knows both because she is a telepath and can read minds. This was adorable. It was funny. It was hilarious. It was very, very entertaining. It took me a minute to kind of get used to reading the manga, going from right to left with the book, but also on the pages. But once I kind of got into the groove, it went by really, really smoothly. I look forward to continuing on with the second volume and with the series. I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Highly, highly recommend. So maybe I'm entering a manga era. I don't know. We shall see. My last read of the month, I started on vacation but did not finish until we got back, and I picked up Beach Read by Emily Henry. I cannot believe I've waited so long to read Emily Henry. I've heard her writing, I've heard her banter has been great, and for whatever reason, I just put it off, but I am so glad that I read Beach Read. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. It was so much more than I had expected. But let me first tell you what this is about. Beach Read is following 2 authors, January and Gus. They both write for very different genres. January is a traditional romance writer, and Gus writes more literary fiction, more on like the depressive side. But they're academic rivals starting from college. They were in the same type of writing workshops and courses, and kind of in January has felt this rivalry with Gus. He's had a lot more success in his career as an adult than she has, so she's always felt a little inadequate to him. Unfortunately, January's father has passed away and has left her this beach house. But along with that, there has been this huge reveal that has basically shaken her entire life. But she's strapped for money, so she decides to move into this beach house, kind of flip it, sell it to get some money. Lo and behold, her next door neighbor is Gus. Ultimately, they decide to challenge each other to write a novel in the other's genre. So this causes them to basically start going out on these dates to teach each other the tricks to writing in each other's genres, and it just goes from there. When I first picked this up, I thought it was going to just be like this light, cute romance, but it was so much more. Emily Henry gave us definitely more depth to her characters. We've got more of an exploration into what it means to kind of have your view of your family like shaken, or searching for answers for things that may have happened to you as a young child. Like, we just get so much more depth to our characters than just a cute little rom-com. I highly recommend. When people say her writing is relatable, it is so relatable and accessible. And the banter between the two of them, top tier, top tier. I don't even want to say that this is Grumpy Sunshine. It almost feels like Grumpy Grumpy, which to me is a little more entertaining. But like I said, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend, and I will definitely be picking up more Emily Henry. So that is all I have for you guys. Those are the 7 books that I read in the month of March. Like I said, I wish that I had a higher quality of reading, but I'm still happy that I got through the books that I did. If you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and I would really love it if you were to subscribe to my channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful time out there, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!